Hello YouTube viewers, this is going to be a small video about how to repair strip threads in aluminum. I'm currently restoring a BMW R75/5. It's an older BMW vintage airhead, and I'm currently working on in the handlebar area. I noticed that somebody in the past, the previous owner, stripped out the threads on the rear view mirror threads on the handle units. Both threads are stripped out pretty bad. Looks like they tried to use epoxy and epoxy the rear view mirrors in these holes at one point. I chipped a lot of the epoxy out, but epoxy is never a good idea. You can't really repair threads with epoxy. I mean, you can with stuff that don't require much torque, but rear view mirrors, you know, they're in the wind, you're always bumping them. It's not a good idea. You really need to repair threads in that case. I'm always stripping threads in aluminum. Aluminum is a fairly soft metal, and this video is about how I usually fix them. There's three ways to fix stripped aluminum threads. The first way, I would say, you can just drill them out and retap them to a larger nut size. These are M10s, and from looking online, M10s, it's metric 10mm size, are pretty much the standard for a lot of rear view mirrors. So if I drill these out, retap them to a larger thread size, I'm pretty sure I'll have problems finding replacement mirrors that have nuts that are bolts that screw into that same size, the larger size thread. I could also, option 2, I could fill in this using, say, aluminum brazing, like a Luma weld rod. You can do that with MAP gas, which is, you can buy at Home Depot. It's fairly cheap. So you can fill that in with aluminum brazing rod and then drill whatever size hole you want and retap that. I've done that in the past, but aluminum brazing is kind of tricky. You have to get the heat just right. The metal has to be completely clean, and honestly, I've damaged a lot of aluminum parts doing it that way. These are pretty substantial. You don't want to try the brazing method on any aluminum that's thin, of course. You'll really damage it. These look thick enough, but I'm just going to go with option 3. You could also, if you have a MIG or a TIG welding, you could fill that in and drill it out and retap it, but honestly, you're still left with aluminum threads, and they're not going to be that strong. So I'm going to go with option 3, which is really the more popular way to repair strip threads in aluminum, that is to use helicoils. Helicoils are an insert. You basically do the same thing as option 1. You drill out the aluminum hole. Get back here. And you drill out the hole, you tap it larger, just like you would in option 1, but instead of leaving it there, then you would screw in this helicoil insert in the aluminum. And actually, the reason this is the best way to go is because it's not just a repair, it's an actual improvement. These are hardened steel, basically a hardened steel sleeve. So you're going from soft aluminum threads to hardened steel threads. So once you get this in there, it's actually much better than it came from the factory. And they're fairly easy to use and work with. And I'm only going to show one of these on the video, but I'm going to repair one of these and show you how I usually do it. Okay, one thing I'll say about the helicoil, the helicoils themselves aren't that expensive, but the tools that you use with them are. But a lot of times you can get away without using the tools, or find the expensive tools. Another thing you can do, I don't have a full helicoil kit, but if you determine what size you need, my suggestion would be eBay. This is a kit I purchased on eBay. Basically came with 12 M10 helicoils, the tap, and the drill. Pretty much everything you need to fix this hole right here, or a hole in aluminum. And there's special tools for screwing the helicoil in the hole once you have it drilled out using this tang here. And then there's a special tool for breaking the tang off once you have it in there. Basically it screws down in there, and then that tang is at the bottom, and you stick it. It's like a punch, and it goes down in there, breaks it off. And you can't see on the video, but there's a weak spot there that's made to break. And really you can't beat the price. I got this kit on eBay for 25 bucks, and it has everything I need. I already had the drill, but I didn't have the exact size tap I needed. I didn't have the helicoils, so for 25 bucks I've got all I need. Okay, I went ahead and drilled the hole. This small piece, I had to use a vise, and I don't have my vise set up conveniently, so anyway, I went ahead and drilled the hole and tapped it with the tap. Drilling the hole, I'd suggest using a drill press if you can. If you don't, I don't have a drill press right here. I just used a handheld drill and just try to make sure you go straight down, as straight as possible. My drill has one of those little bubble levels, so that makes it easier. That's the easy part. When you're tapping, if you don't have experience tapping aluminum is fairly simple. Just I've already tapped this, but I had it in the vise. Basically, there you go. You just go in. You turn it about, I'd say about 3/4 of a turn, and then back off about a quarter turn. 3/4, half to 3/4 turn, back off a little bit, and you want to use some kind of cutting fluid, kerosene, or they make a specific type of cutting fluid, machinery fluid. I just use 3-in-1 oil. I put a little 3-in-1 oil on it. 3/4 turn back. You go back because as the threads are cutting, you can see it carving off the little pieces, and you just want to when you back it up, you're just clearing out some of the pieces, aluminum that you're carving off, and then just keep going until you get all the way through. And this actually worked out fine. This one is just fine, the width of the helicoil. But if you get a helicoil that's too long, longer than your needs, I mean, this doesn't have to go fill the whole gap. It's plenty right there. But if you get one that's too long, you can cut these down. It's basically like a spring. If you look, it's a hardened steel spring. But you can imagine it's just threads. That's all threads are. And if you cut it down, of course, don't cut down the type with the tang, because you need that tang to screw into that. But you can measure it and then use like a Dremel or something and cut some of those off if you need to make it, shallower. I even like running a Q-tip through the threads with some rubbing alcohol. Basically, when the Q-tip comes out clean, then you've got the threads as clean as you can get them. When they're clean, you're ready to start threading in the helicoil. It'll be hard to thread in at first, but keep screwing with it, you'll get it. Okay, this is interesting. I've never done this without the tool or a full kit, to be honest, but what I did, I basically just took a plastic pen, and used my trusty Leatherman here just to make a little notch in the end, just enough to grab the tang. You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but Right, it seems to be working. Yeah. You just want to twist. You don't want to push down, or you could. It's basically a spring. It'll jump out of the threads. But one thing you do need to do if you want it to be permanent, use Loctite, and not the blue Loctite either. Blue Loctite is for stuff that you will take off eventually. I don't want this stuff ever coming out again, at least as long as I have this bike. Alright, and just twist. You don't want it to be flush. You want to take it down just a little bit below flush. There. Okay, once you have the helicoil inserted and it looks good, it's thread locked, I like to wait about, say 10 minutes and start. You want to clean off the red thread locker from the new threads. If it dries in there, then it could be a problem when you screw the new bolt into the helicoil. So just get in there and try to get it out as much as possible. I like to use a little alcohol, not like, you don't really douse it in alcohol. You don't want the alcohol to rinse out the thread locker that's holding the helicoil in or locking it in, but you want to get in there and get as much of the thread lock off the outside of the threads as possible. You don't want it to get in the way of the bolt. Okay, all finished. It looks good. I'm going to wait till that red Loctite dries before I try and break off that tang in there. I'm just going to use a screwdriver, stick in there and tap it with a hammer and break the tang off, but I don't want to do that until the Loctite is dry and it's pretty much frozen in there. Okay, job done. The helicoils are inserted in the aluminum control housings for the handlebars, and they look good. The tangs are broken off. The red Loctite is pretty much frozen, and they shouldn't be coming out of there anytime soon. Honestly, when you're repairing strip threads in aluminum, the helicoil inserts are probably the best way to go. There are other brands of inserts out there. I'm not familiar with them. I think Helicoil is the most popular, and they're fairly easy to use. And once you do a good job and they're in there, they won't strip out. So I hope this video helps somebody. Have a nice day.